Hello everybody, this is Lara with your weekly video for Bitcoin for the trading week beginning 28th of February 2022. Bitcoin moved lower and bounced up strongly. There's a hammer candlestick pattern on the daily chart. There's a volume spike at the low. We've seen this before and it tends to come with a sustainable low. I expect there's another deep second wave correction and this is a very bullish wave count. I'm expecting now a third wave at multiple degrees from minuet right up to cycle. While price remains above 33,184.06, the main wave count will be valid and will be preferred. My targets for it are highly provisional. Okay, Elliott Wave analysis first, classic analysis last, as per usual. At the weekly chart level, and I'll be updating next week, I'll update monthly charts. I'll just do it once a month because there's really no point in doing it multiple times if there's no difference. So here's the end of cycle 2, where 2 ends, 3 begins, and I'm expecting cycle wave 3 to continue for some years. Cycle wave 3 may only subdivide it as an impulse, and at primary degree that will be labelled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My preferred wave count is not labelling primary wave 3 over at this high, because if this is primary 3, it's only 5.71 times the length of primary wave 1. For a normal market, that would be considered rather long, but for this market, its price history and a full Elliott wave count on it, that is, shows us that it's actually quite short. Within a cycle wave 1, when I look at primary and intermediate waves there, they tend to be at least 17 times the length of the third waves are 17 times the length of the first waves at the same degree. And so I would expect primary 3 is not over there and it's probably extending. Long extended third waves are so typical, happens almost all the time for this market. So let's expect that typical behaviour to continue. Within cycle wave 1, its primary degree third wave is 38.87 times the length of its first wave. If we see that same relationship exhibited here within cycle 3, then primary 3 may reach a target at 417507. If it lasts 144 weeks, a Fibonacci number, it could end this next December. So within primary, we've got primary 1, 2, within primary 3, intermediate 1, 2, within intermediate 3, minor 1, 2, and now minute 1, 2. Minor 2 has remained above wave 1 price territory. Minute 2 has remained above the end of minor wave 2. The invalidation point remains the same at 33,184.06. Draw a base channel around minor 1 and 2. This is going to be important. Draw it from the start of 1 to the end of 2. Place a copy on 1. Minute 2 has bounced up very strongly, ever so slightly above that channel. Look out for any further deep pullbacks, and there could be another 1 or 2. If that happens, look out for support at or just above the lower edge of this channel. Use that as your lower edge of support. Let's take a look now at the daily chart. We're going to look from the end of minor 2. And we're going to focus in now on the start of minor 3. Minute 1 has a nice 5-wave impulse. 1, 2, extended third wave. 4, short little fifth wave. Minute 2, a good looking zigzag, A, B, C, and it's remained above minute 1 price territory and found support just a little bit above the lower edge of the base channel. This wave count now expects a third wave at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That cycle from the weekly chart, 6 wave degrees, is in its early stages. This is a very, very bullish wave count. I'd be expecting to see an increase in upward momentum in coming weeks for Bitcoin. But, however, having said that, it is really, really bullish, but Bitcoin does tend to start out its third wave slow, its impulses actually slowly, and this is what I mean. It may end up having a really typical curved look, a slow start, still slow, starting to improve with strength, acceleration, and then an explosion at the end, giving its impulses that very typical curved look. I'm expecting to see that again for intermediate wave 3. Okay, let's go to the alternate. It's always important to have an alternate and not get stuck on just one wave count. We've got to be open-minded and objective. When I look at this movement from this low to this high, I really do want to label it a complete 5-wave impulse, and it does fit. Intermediate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Primary 1 may have been over here rather than my main wave count sees it over there. But again, the problem here is intermediate 3 is only 5.71 times the length of intermediate 1. And given Bitcoin's price history, that's a pretty short third wave. They tend to be a lot longer than that. But that's why this is an alternate. It has a lower probability based on the price history and behaviour with a full Elliott wave count of this market. But it's possible. If we are seeing a continuing bear market for Bitcoin, I'd label it primary 2. The first target, 28,249, for primary 2 to reach at least the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio of primary 1, but a more likely target range would be from 80 to 90% the length of primary wave 1, which is from 16,310.97 to 9,751.14. However, the bigger problem with this is that would mean primary 2 would overlap back into cycle wave 1 price territory. Doesn't breach any Elliott wave rules, but that's not typical behaviour for this market. Once it has one of those very important sustainable highs, followed by a huge deep bear market, once it breaches those prior sustainable highs, it tends to not overlap back into them. So cycle wave 1 has its high just under 20,000. That's the December 2017 high. I would expect that to remain intact and for primary 2 here to not overlap back into that price territory. This wave count expects it should. So all sorts of problems in terms of past behaviour. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but past behaviour is all we have to go on, so we have to take notice of it. Primary 2 may not move beyond the start of 1, below 3191.3035. At the daily chart level, primary 2 continuing lower as a zigzag, intermediate A, B, intermediate C continuing lower. Upward movement should find resistance at the upper edge of this channel for this wave count. If this channel is breached, the probability of this wave count is going to be further reduced. And finally, at the weekly chart level, what if primary wave 1 isn't over? What if intermediate 4 is continuing sideways? The same objection remains. Primary 3 is only intermediate 3 here is only 5.71 times the length of intermediate 1, rather short for this market, but everything else about this wave count has a really good look. Intermediate 1, 2, 3, intermediate 4 continuing sideways as a triangle would see beautiful perfect alternation with the zigzag of intermediate 2, and it would have really good proportion to intermediate 2. Within the triangle, minor wave E may not move beyond the end of minor C below 33,184.06. Okay, classic analysis now, because there's some more bullishness on the charts this week for Bitcoin. There's a hammer candlestick pattern here. The last completed week, this is just Monday session, which is moving price strongly higher, but the last completed week, not quite a hammer. There's a bit too much of an upper wick possibly, but it does have a bullish long lower wick. The lower wick's longer than the upper. And downward movement here comes with a volume spike. We've seen this before. We see it here. There's a volume spike here. There's a volume spike here. So there's a little bit of an increase in volume at the low. That seems to be somewhat common for Bitcoin. Okay, so that looks normal for probably a sustainable low for Bitcoin. Let's see if it can overtake resistance at 42,500 this week. The most bearish thing on these charts is the signal from on-balance volume. It looks like it might be breaking below support, but as you can see, it's not a clear, strong break yet. So it could be a bearish signal, but I'd want to wait one more week to see a proper breach of that trend line to really have confidence in it. But if you're looking for something bearish in these charts, here it is. RSI neutral, ADX indicating a downward trend, yes, that's also bearish. ATR declining as price falls, there's weakness in downward movement. Stochastics neutral. At the daily chart level, we have a bullish candlestick pattern here. This is a very long lower wick and a comparatively shorter upper wick. This is a fairly good bullish reversal pattern. It has strong support from volume. Upward movement within the session dominated, and so it's probably upward volume which is dominating and showing a strong spike. This is really bullish and supports the idea that this is probably a sustainable low. This fits the Elliott Wave count quite nicely. And now this session isn't complete, but so far we've got some increase in volume and range, so pushing price higher. Again, that's exactly what the main Elliott Wave count expects. On balance, volume moved below support, broke above, broke through resistance, testing support, moving up and away. This is a bullish look. ADX declining, no clear trend at this time frame. RSI neutral as is stochastics. ATR showing a little increase as price is moving higher. That supports the Elliott Wave count. There's strength in this upward movement. Each day, the bulls are able to push price a little bit further. Okay, that's it for me this week with your Bitcoin analysis. I hope everyone had a really awesome weekend.